Good morning, true crime friends. How y'all doing? Listen, today, part 3, we need to wrap up the state of South Carolina versus Meagan Jackson. So much happens in the last part of this case. Oh, twists and turns. The way I love a twist and a turn. We're about to get into it. But first, you know what you need to do. Please like this video, subscribe to the channel, and share out these videos. That helps other people find this ridiculousness that I call a YouTube channel. Okay, so look. First, what happened? The state calls in like a digital dude. I don't remember his name, but basically he came and he went through tedious detail of all of like the emails and the mapping and the text messages and whatever that basically proves the state's case, like a literal metric ton of evidence that proves, the state's version of what happened. And I was like, okay, that seems good. And then there was one text message that stood out to me. And one of the text messages Meagan sends to her co-conspirator, Chris Dantal. She was just like, you know what? I mean, this is all terrible. I think maybe we should just like poke holes in his tires or cut his brake lines. Ma'am, listen, I understand that you're upset with your baby daddy, but slashing his tires and cutting his brake lines, that's not a good look. And I was like, well, maybe this Chris Dantal was like, oh no, that's terrible, we should never do that. He was like, unfortunately, girl, I feel the same way. What? Okay, y'all are super duper nuts. Y'all might need to spend some time down to the nervous hospital. Anyway, so the lawyers from the Case Britton law firm, the Britton law firm. Hello, Britton Law Firm. Good morning. I see y'all still have the big water bottle with the B on it to advertise your law firm. I appreciate product placement during the trial. I'm not gonna lie. I know a little something about that product placement life. Please hold. So anyway, the cross-examining lawyer gets up. And he's like, I mean, there's no proof that Meagan sent all those text messages, right? And the cell phone guy was like, I mean, aside from the fact that she used her personal email to log into this anonymous text message account, other than that, no, not a whole lot. He's like, and y'all cherry picked specifically the ones where she was extra super terrible, right? And the cell phone guy was like, I mean, it was a ton of messages. We picked the ones we thought we could use. And then the defense team sat down and I was like, that's how y'all go. This lady spent all morning going back and forth about detailing step by step everything Meagan did. And you're just going to be like, you can't really prove it was her. I mean, you proved it, but you didn't like prove it. And I was like, Britton Law, maybe you should take that B off that cup because you're not putting on a good show. I'm not really impressed with y'all right now. And then I was like, okay, state, what else y'all got? I know y'all got some more good stuff. And then the state stands up. Listen, the solicitor in her fabulous pink suit, her little high and tight haircut. She's so gorgeous to me. Oh, I hope she's not like corrupt and stuff. And it is South Carolina's house, so you know it's no telling. Anyway, so she stands up in her fabulous outfit and she was like, the state rests. And I was like, oh my God. Okay, so now we're going to see what the defense is going to put on, if anything, because remember, the defense doesn't have to do anything. And then Big Daddy rises from his seat. I was like, oh, the wild Harpootlian is back in the courtroom. Okay, so Big Daddy stands up. I mean, okay, Big Daddy's government name is Tommy Britton, but don't he seem like a Big Daddy? When you see him, you're like, oh, that look like Big Daddy to me. So Big Daddy stands up and he's like, conspiracy? I don't know that they have proven conspiracy, Your Honor. There is no pre-planning. And I was like, oh, right. Meagan has proven herself to be uniquely extra strength terrible, but there's really no evidence that she and Chris planned this unfortunate unaliving together. Honestly, if you go by Chris, it was more like it was a surprise murder. And while I enjoy a surprise unfortunate unaliving is really not what I'm going for. And so the gorgeous solicitor stands up and she's like, Your Honor, we said what we said. I mean, you know, in legal terms. And the judge was like, let me think about this. Granted, the conspiracy theory is thrown out against Meagan. And I was like, wait. all the time, we see defense attorneys stand up and ask for a judgment of acquittal. Your Honor, I mean, if it's Big Daddy talking, Tommy Britton. Your Honor, they have not proven anything. They came with a giant mountain of evidence, and we say that's not proof. And all the time, the judge is like, okay, anyway. And then they proceed with the trial. But this judge was like, yeah, this was clearly a surprise, unfortunate unaliving, so no conspiracy. Meagan suddenly looked very relaxed. And I was like, Britton Law Firm, have y'all earned my respect back? Wait a minute. I might reach out to you for all my murder needs in the Myrtle Beach area. Okay. And so then the judge is like, little lady, stand up. Me and you got to have a colloquy. Oh, I love the word colloquy. That is when the judge talks to the accused and it's like, hey girl, hey, you going to testify? You're not going to testify. I mean, that's the long and short of it. And so she was like, no. And so the Britton Law Firm stands up and it's just like, we are not putting on a defense. I was like, Wait. Nothing. Like nothing. I was like, okay. And then, of the Britton Law Firm, it's Big Daddy, it's Clayton from Benson, and then the kid brother. Now, I don't know nobody's government name. I can't be keeping all of that straight. Although I said yesterday, and I still stand by the fact that based on the fact that the Britton Law Firm is a family law firm, and we seen Big Daddy, those two sons of his look like they have first names that are also last names. So, them little boys, child, I don't know their government names. Anyway, so one of the brothers stands up. Wait, the judge is like, so y'all say the hand of one is the hand of all. That means if one person did it, then the other person did it too. Is there proof of the hand of one, the hand of all? And then they argue back and forth about it. I was a little bit lost. I was like, can we just get to closing statements? Because I really enjoy a closing statement. I know it's some like legally law stuff y'all need to do. And that's real good. And we want to make sure we protect the rights of the accused. But this part is boring to me. So they argue back and forth. And then the judge takes a break. And I was like, wait. Might the judge throw out more charges? He threw out the conspiracy. Oh, suddenly, Meg, she was looking real relaxed. Now, we know she's a trash bag, right? She's a terrible, terrible human being, but she was seeming extra relaxed, which made me extra nervous. My breathing got heavy. I'm like, why am I breathing heavy? I ain't unfortunately unalive nobody. Anyway, so the judge takes a break and he comes back. He's like, oh, okay, yeah. I reread some stuff and I checked my notes, and the hand of one is the hand of all. So if Chris did the thing or Meagan did the thing, it doesn't matter if they were together when the thing happened. So yes, you can use the hand of one is the hand of all, defense, law, whatever. He was like, yeah, we still gonna do the hand of one thing. And I was like, okay, great. And so then the solicitor stands up for her closing statements. And I was like, hey there, solicitor. Girl, where did you get that suit? That asymmetrical cut in the front, I am living for it. I'm not a fan of belts, though. I wasn't really big on the belt, but that was a good suit, a very good suit. Anyway, so she stands up and she says, ladies and gentlemen of the jury, like I stated before, this is a tale as old as time. It's about an affair, a pregnancy, and a murder. Ma'am, hi, point of order. A tale as old as time is like Beauty and the Beast, love, marriage, baby in a baby carriage. I never thought of a tale as old as time as being an affair, a pregnancy, and a murder, but maybe that's how y'all roll in South Carolina. Okay, carry on. She's like, there's an added layer. It is deception. And I was like, oh, so dramatic. Oh my God, I love it so much. She was just like, that trash bag over there. I mean, she might have used her government name. I don't remember. She was just like, Meagan Jackson infiltrated the Dontel family. And I was like, that's right, she did. And then she went on to detail all the ways in which Meagan infiltrated the family. She moved into their neighborhood. That's kind of shady, but okay, you can move. You can move about town. That's fine. She's like, she made friends with her lover's wife. Oh, that's kind of bad. Okay, that shows a certain amount of deception. She bought them gifts. She even became a part of their pod. Remember in COVID, when everybody was forming like pods, that was like your nearest and dearest. Your kids could play with their kids and you didn't have to worry about getting, like all diseased up or whatever. The pod pod was sacred a couple of years ago, and she became part of their pod while she was oochie coochie and that lady's husband. That is terrible. She was like, and then you know what else she did? And I was like, girl, tell me. I mean, I was here for your whole, everything you said, but please tell me again, wrap it all up for me. I was on the edge of my seat, not just because she had a gorgeous suit and a fabulous haircut, but what she said was very, very compelling to me, right? So the solicitor, oh, I love the word solicitor, said, and then Meagan starts emailing her friend Erica anonymously saying, hey girl, hey, your husband got somebody pregnant. Hey girl, hey, your husband is being very, very deceptive. And I was just like, And so when the email started coming in, remember, Meagan blamed her baby daddy, Greg. And then she, pew, 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 shot Greg 5 times. And I was like, oh my gosh. And then she said, the defense said when she, pew-pewed him up, there was 5 shots, but nobody called about hearing 5 shots. And I was like, oh yeah, that is suspicious. But she was like, remember where you live. Here in Horry County, hearing multiple gunshots is no big deal. And I was like, what? South Carolina, what are y'all doing? She said, this solicitor opened her mouth and said, if you called the police every time you heard gunshots, you wouldn't have time to do nothing else. What? I have questions. Also, I'm terrified now to go to South Carolina. Y'all just out here shooting willy-nilly, pell-mell for no good reason. South Carolina, y'all are scary to me. Hang on. I literally have spent more than half my life in New York City. I have heard gunshots a handful of times. If these people called the police every time a gunshot was fired down there in South Carolina, they wouldn't have no free time at all. Okay. She also goes on to say, this victim was unfortunately unalived with a .22. Everybody knows that those are whisper shots. They're like, pew, pew, pew. So it's no big deal that you didn't hear gunshots for this particular unfortunate unaliving. It was all them other unalivings that she was hearing the shots for. And I was like, I'm terrified, but okay. See, also, I'm not going to South Carolina anyway. So she says, maybe Chris Dontel did the unfortunate unaliving. Maybe Meagan did the unfortunate unaliving. Remember, the hand of one is the hand of all. And I was like, oh my God, she did so good. And she was like, keep in mind, Chris Dontel never met this decedent, barely laid eyes on the man his whole life. He didn't know him. Yeah, he was like, he didn't like him and he was oochie and that lady's coochie and stuff. But he did not know Greg Rice. He didn't have a reason to unfortunately unalive Greg Rice. And I was like, he didn't know him, but he did kind of have a little bit of a reason. But okay, girl, I'm going to go with you. Then she says, a verdict means us to seek for the truth. And I was like, oh, vocabulary words. We're learning things. This is great. She was like, Meagan, that trash bag over there, she does not know the truth. And I was like, wait, is she going to say she can't handle the truth? She didn't say all that. But she was just like, you've seen this trial. You see what a lying sack of sugar she is. She don't know nothing about the truth. You think she knows how to spell the word truth? I promise you, she does not. And then she straightened her gorgeous pink jacket and she sat down and I wanted to applaud, but I didn't. I mean, okay, I did here in my house, but they couldn't see me there in the courtroom, so it didn't matter. Then Preston Britton. And I expressly wrote down his name because I was so impressed with the closing statement given by Preston Britton down there at the Britton Law Firm. Please know, he still had his bottle, his water bottle with the big B on the front of it because Preston Britton knows about product placement. He knows this trial is on court TV and he's like in Myrtle Beach. If you out here, unfortunately, unaliving people, if some of them gunshots people are hearing in the back room is you dealing with Mama Luke's, call us. We will help you with your murder needs. Okay, Preston Britton, you have impressed me. His closing is what sealed the deal for me. He was just like, reasonable doubt, a reason to hesitate. If you look at all of this evidence and it gives you a reason to hesitate, you have a reasonable doubt. And I was like, oh. Well, so far I don't have a reason to hesitate, but I appreciate that dictionary definition of reasonable doubt. I might keep that in my back pocket for when I have to give a closing statement. someday on the internet. Anyway, he was just like, did you notice something? The lead investigator was never called to the stand. And I was like, wait, they didn't call the lead investigator. Why would that be? It seemed very strange to me. He was like, you want to know why? And I said, yes, Preston Britton. I'm going to have to figure out your government name because I'm so far impressed and you have only said like 3 sentences. He was like, they did not call the lead investigator because the state is embarrassed. They're embarrassed at this case. And I was like, they are? They don't seem embarrassed to me, but okay. He was like, Meagan, she wanted the affair exposed. That is not a crime. I mean, it's morally reprehensible, but I agree it's not a crime. And the state can't charge you for just wanting an affair exposed. And then he goes on to explain the state has changed their theory of this crime a couple of times. Prior to Chris Dantel's confession, the state of South Carolina thought this unfortunate unaliving took place over at the funeral home. Their theory was this. Now, keep in mind, it was just a theory. And we know that the state has to look at all the evidence and be like, this is what we think happened. And then they just tell you, and you either buy it or you don't buy it. The original theory of this case was that, based on the cell phones or whatever, that Meagan put Greg in the truck, right? The dead body truck, like still alive, still fully alive, drove him to the funeral home. And then Chris Dantel pew-pewed up Greg Rice down at the funeral home. And then they stashed him there and then later dumped the body. And I was like, oh, based on the evidence, I honestly can see how they would have come to that. And that theory makes sense. Preston went on to point out the phones were together. That doesn't mean the people were together. I mean, sir, it kind of does. It really kind of. Who is just letting their phone? Who got a free range phone? Your phone is just walking down the street, going places without you? I think not. But okay, sir, I'm picking up what you're putting down. Mr. Britton goes on to say, Chris, unfortunately unalived Greg. And I was like, oh, that's kind of a good theory. Like, I'm not saying I totally agree with it, but that's a theory that could actually work in this case. And I was like, wait, have I changed my mind? Okay, yeah, the hand of one is still the hand of all. But I was verklempt. I was clutching my pearls. I was just like, oh my God. And then he said, did you notice these investigators on the stand? The investigators, when they were telling you what happened, they all looked sad because they are embarrassed about this case. Y'all, the scream I scrumped in my house. I was like, these investigators are just up here doing their job. They like, we're going to have a murder today, a murder next week, a murder tomorrow. Like, they seem sad on the stand. Sir, that is a reach. I appreciate the creative writing of it though, but sir, that is a reach if I ever heard one. And then he was like, you can't trust Chris Dantel. And I was like, that tracks. He said, to convict Meagan, you have to be able to trust Chris Dantel. Can you trust Chris Dantel? And I was like, wait, can I trust Chris Dantel? He tells us there's none of Meagan's DNA. Who had blood on their shoes? Chris Dantel had blood on his shoes. And I was like, ruh-roh, Rorge. I think I might have reasonable doubt. I think I had reasonable doubt in this case. I was like, oh my God. He was like, Meagan wanted to oochie coochie that man. She did not want unfortunate unaliving. That's not what she wanted. Meagan wanted Chris. She wanted, the in and out. She did not want this unfortunate unaliving. I was like, well, she is kind of a horrible human being, so I could see where she might want that. And he was just like, Greg said that Meagan was a terrible mother. And we agree with him. I was like, y'all, now you just over here shading your client. Now, do we know she's a terrible human being and a terrible mother? Yes, we do. But like, maybe you should just like keep that part to yourself. She's a horrible human being. She's a horrible mother. She's a town bicycle. Everybody out here getting a ride. But maybe you should not include that in your closing statements. But that's just me. I'm a gossip on the internet and not a lawyer with the legally law stuff like you. But okay. Mr. Britton says Chris had a motive to unfortunately unalive Greg. it gave me something to think about. And then he said, here are reasons to distrust Chris Dantel's story. Chris did not call the police after this. He was like, Meagan pew-pewed up her baby daddy. Chris never called the police. And I was like, right. But he was a conspirator, so maybe he wouldn't. He was like, Chris kept sleeping with this lady after the pew-pew up. And I was like, right. He knows she's an unfortunate unaliver, but he's still sticking it to her. Now I'm questioning him. Chris had blood on his shoes. Chris got on the stand and he lies and he cries. And I was like, oh, sir, I appreciate the rhyme. I like that very, very much. And he was just like, and did you see him in that Lowe's video? That crystal clear Lowe's video, the clearest surveillance video you have ever seen in your whole entire life. It was like you were there at the Lowe's with him. Did he look sad? No, he looked happy. He was happily pushing that shopping cart along with the tarps and the brick and the zip ties and everything. He cleaned out the whole murder aisle at Lowe's, and he looked positively cheerful. And then he texted Meagan, I love you. I was like, I am now filled with reasonable doubt. Filled. And I was like, And he was like, the last reason that you should not trust Chris Dantel, whatever his name is he went to the police first so he would get a reduced sentence. And I was like, wait, I, Kathy the Gossip, here on the internet, am now filled with reasonable doubt about Chris being that innocent. I still think that Trollope did it, but I'm like, oh, this Chris, I have questions. And then the lawyer, Preston Britton, laid out an alternate theory of the crime. Ooh, tell me every single thing, sir, because you know I want to know every single thing. He was like, look, Chris unfortunately unalived Greg. I was like, okay. And then he was like, to convict Meagan, you have to trust Chris. And I was like, that's your whole alternate theory? Like, okay. I hear what you're saying, right? Chris Dantel is really, really not that trusting. And people in my comments pointed out something yesterday that I had not noticed. And that is that there might have been a plan to unfortunately unalive both spouses, right? Greg went first, obviously, but you notice Sweet Polly Purebred, Erica Dantel, still married to Chris. Was there a life insurance policy on her? Had her husband not been arrested, might she have been up next? Y'all, I have questions. Please hold on and talk my throat dry. So then the jury goes out, and I was like, oh, jury, what y'all gonna do? Because both of these people, we have proven in a court of law, are absolutely horrible, morally reprehensible human beings, right? What would the jury decide? So then in my head, I was hearing the Jeopardy music. Do, 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 do. You know that song? I don't want to get a copyright strike because you know that was a very, very realistic rendition. Anyway, so the jury deliberates for all of 3 seconds, and then they come back. They're like, hey, Your Honor, we got a verdict. I was like, oh, Meagan, girl, this is not going to go good for you. So the jury comes in. Now, this is one thing I really, really do enjoy about South Carolina. Yes, they are very terrifying because they just over there shooting up everything, every single chance they get. But when they come with a verdict, some of these states are like, we, the great state of Idaho, land of potatoes and many, many bullets, do find you on this day, blah, blah, blah. Not South Carolina. South Carolina, the judge is like, do you have a verdict? They're like, please stand and record the verdict. The clerk stands up and it's just like, guilty. Can we take her out back right now? I was like, no preamble, no nothing. Heifer did it. She of the origami face, Miss Meagan. Oh, she looked very sad. Her face was like an entire upside down U. I was like, oh, very nice origami face. Golf claps. Anyway. So she gets convicted, and then they were like, oh, okay, great. So she gonna go to jail for a long, long time. Let's get some victim impact statements in there. And so they were like, is there any reason why we should not give her, the toughest penalty around or whatever? Is there any mitigation? Her lawyers were like, I mean, not really. Also, please consult the Britton Law Firm for all your murder needs. Anyway, the state stands up and it's just like, so I have 2 letters that are victim impact statements. The first one is from Zach Rice, the decedent's son. The decedent's son had to adopt 4 of his half-siblings and raised them on the heels of the death of the father. And I was like, oh my gosh, that's terrible. So he wrote a very heartfelt letter that was very South Carolina. He was like, Your Honor, now that this whole trash bag has been convicted, I say we should do an eye for an eye. Can you please poke her eyes out? And I was like, South Carolina is gangster AF. I'm kind of living for it. Anyway, and then Savannah, you remember very, very sweet Savannah, who testified on the very first day of trial. I was like, oh my gosh, what is Savannah going to say? Well, Savannah was too overcome to actually get up and speak, but she did write a letter that was sweet and well thought out. I love Savannah. Can we adopt her? Anyway, she was like, Your Honor, my mother is a whole trash bag. She's a terrible person. I'm glad I got to come up here and speak my truth. She's terrible. I think 50 years to life would be appropriate. And the judge was like, thanks so much for playing. Have a stand up. I mean, you know, in judicial language. He was like, I, the judge of the great state of South Carolina, sentence you to life. Be gone. And then it was over. And I was like, it's over. Just like that. She's convicted. She's going to prison for life. Do they shave the women's heads in South Carolina? I know they shave the men's heads in South Carolina. Her hair wasn't that good. Now listen, we have had a lot of criminals with very, very good hair lately. And I was heartbroken that all that gorgeous hair had to go to prison. Her hair, it can go to prison. It's fine. That she already got prison hair. She got prison face too. Have you seen her? Anyway, okay, so look, that wraps up the state of South Carolina versus trash bag Meagan Jackson. So don't forget to like this video, subscribe to this channel, and share these ridiculous videos out. In the meantime, I will see you next crime. Bye.